December 30, 2023. I thought I'd do a little bit of a kind of a year in review thing for 2023 and maybe some thoughts about next year too. Um, but and one thing on my videos and things I'm doing, I try to do more than generally to get a topic and do analyses and stuff like that, which I hope is interesting to people. At any rate, let's start off here. I guess the big development the year began, I think, with the new Congress. I mean, we did manage to win the House of Representatives back with a 222 to 213 majority, and of course we failed to get the Senate. Or failed to even hold the tie because, well, mainly because of a couple of bad candidate choices in Pennsylvania and particularly in Georgia. Um, that let's don't go into that, but I think we know what happened there. But so and of course things were getting off to a good start. We had the majority, and then a bunch of renegades in the House had a week-long battle over who was going to become Speaker. It seems like they were determined that even though Kevin McCarthy had managed to get the fundraising and get the organization together to win the thing, they were upset that because some of the more extreme candidates we had, not that they're bad guys, but maybe not the most electable, lost their competitive races, and we ended up actually winning because of some unexpected wins in California and New York. The New York ones were no doubt due largely to the ongoing crime situation in the state. So, among other things, and the fact we had a fairly strong gubernatorial candidate who, although he lost by about 8 points, he came a lot closer than you normally do in the state of New York. So, at any rate, once that was settled, we got off to the business at hand, and of course, we can always argue how it all turned out, and we'll get into that later. But not a lot has gotten done so far. That's the good news, I guess, also, because not a lot of bad things got done. And so that's one of the major events there. By the way, if you like these videos, please give me a like. We need more subscriptions. Because like I said early on, I try to do analysis in these things. I hit often, topical subjects, but I try to give a little different insight than what you might get elsewhere, I think. And, well, we'll see. So anyhow, so that got us into the Congress. Of course, then, of course, one of the other interesting events of the year, which was the appearance of former Air Force intelligence officer and also a member of the Geospatial Intelligence Agency, who had recently resigned, David Grush, who informed us that, in fact, in spite of what a lot of people had been thinking, that we actually do have positive evidence of the what he's using the term non-human intelligence, or I normally called aliens, presence, and we can get into that whole issue, or not here, but but at any rate, he informed us we do have it, and seemed quite credible on the subject. And later on, of course, he ended up testifying under oath to Congress in public about the subject to the degree he could within security regulations. And previously, he, of course, reported this through the Inspector General of the Intelligence Community, who then forwarded it to both the House and Senate Intelligence Committees. So I would say this, to me, unlike what a lot of people, I think cognitive dissonance on the subject, but I think he almost has to be telling the truth, or he's trying to set himself up for a nice prison sentence. Because, I mean, you commit that much perjury if it's really all made up. And if at the same time it annoys a lot of the people keeping the secrets, that's a double whammy for trouble. So, and of course, so that was one, I think, to me, a notable development of the year. The other big thing that happened, kind of interspersed with this, of course, was the great, long, much vaunted Ukrainian offensive, which was going to cut through Russian lines and split the Russian occupation troops in Zaporizhia region in two, and move all the way to the Sea of Azov, and lead to Russia losing Crimea and a major defeat. Well, that didn't really happen. It turns out that by the time all the equipment we had was sent there, billions and billions of dollars worth of it, and the troops that we'd had specially trained had gotten in position, the Russians in the meantime had recruited a large number of reservists, trained them, and deployed them along with building a massive set of fortifications and laid incredible minefields and so forth. The result being that the Ukrainian penetrations of the Russian lines were relatively minor. They did have a salient near Robotina and a few other things, but it really, they managed to use some precision missiles, these Storm Shadow missiles and the French equivalent, and blew up a bunch of things. It definitely did a lot of damage to the Russian naval vessels in the Black Sea, but ultimately it was kind of a bust and incredible losses of Ukrainian lives. And so that was kind of a notable event of the year. And I think as the year ends, the Russians find themselves mainly back on the offensive again. And although the going on both sides is slow, no matter who's on the offensive, and I'm sure the casualties go up when you go on the offensive, but so it is. And we'll have to see what the next year brings on that subject. And of course, that's, I think a major event of the year, a major failure of the Biden administration policy. So, and of course, throughout the entire year, and as we go into the end of the year, of course, the illegal immigration is soaring to record levels, and the administration is obviously secretly cheering it on while bemoaning the fact that the border is closed and they can't do anything about it or something, where in fact they caused the whole thing. We'll have to see how that pans out, but that's another major development of the year, and so that's where we are. And of course, the Republican presidential primary has heated up a series of debates, of which former President Trump has refused to participate, largely because he's so far ahead in the polls, he doesn't seem to see a need for it. A bunch of candidates have dropped out. Some are still playing. Mainly DeSantis, Haley, and I guess still in, as Christie's in at a distant fourth, I guess, and of course Ramaswamy, I guess, is the head of Christie, who, so we'll have to see. We're getting very close to the beginning of the Iowa caucuses and the New Hampshire primary, so this is starting to get real as we get near the end of the year. And of course, the latest thing, of course, the Democrats are going forward with their plan to try to get Trump kicked off the ballot. We've discussed this in previous videos recently. The Supreme Court ruling in Colorado, the Supreme Court ruling there, and then, of course, the Secretary of State in Maine has just decided to make the same kind of a move. I tend to believe this is now heading to the U.S. Supreme Court. I think the timeliness, coupled with the fact that you have two different states and two different appellate districts, have kind of pushed the thing in the direction of it being heard by the court. There's a possibility that they wouldn't have been heard by the court, as I mentioned before in a previous last video. If it was only in Colorado, they might just leave the local circuit court of appeals handle it. But since now we've got two different districts involved, I think that they will probably have to hear it now, and so that's kind of where we're going. Of course, we did get the Artemis 1 space launch done this year, and of course we've had two launches of Elon Musk's super heavy rocket. The first one was a bit of a fiasco, I think, and the second one was pretty much successful. The press doesn't say that, but they nearly accomplished their goal of getting into orbit, and there was some kind of glitch apparently with the safety of flight system that caused a self-destruct there on the Starship before it hit orbit. But I think that get those bugs out of the way, and maybe the third mission will be successful in the coming year. So these are major developments, I think, that kind of work, that are on the positive side. One other thing, interesting enough, is that Fetterman, who did win the Pennsylvania Senate race, I kind of alluded to that issue before, who obviously had suffered a stroke during the race and seemed to be incoherent, suffering from the effects of the stroke. Apparently, in recent months, apparently he may have recovered from those effects and has actually come back to some degree of cognizance, and actually occasionally makes sense on a few issues, more than a lot of the leadership of the Democrat Party does. So that's another interesting development. We'll see where that goes the next year, whether he will remain rational and become kind of a moderate Democrat figure, or whether he will revert. It's hard to know. I mean, so that's kind of a lot of how the year goes. We'll have to see as I say, what's coming up here. Um, you know, the other big issue, of course, is that the Supreme Court, of course, is going to hear that remanded the case of Trump's immunity that he's claiming, and of course the appellate court, we all know what it's going to do, but it'll be very interesting when it does get the Supreme Court. Do they hear it, and do they support Trump or not? This is going to be very interesting and very important, because I think that if Trump does get goes to trial and gets convicted before the convention, that's going to pose a major issue for the Republicans. On the other hand, as we look ahead, if he can avoid conviction until the election, well, he might just win it. So that's where we are on that one, and we've hit that before, but I think it's another major event of the year. So that's kind of the year shaped up. So, and we still, of course, as I got into the Congress at the beginning, of course, then uh, uh, we have the problem of getting the budget passed because of a lack of agreement even on the Republican side, and now we have two less active members of the House. So our margin is narrower. McCarthy resigned all the way in frustration after being ousted as Speaker. And then, so, that's kind of where we are on that. But the new Speaker, of course, turned out to do the same thing that got McCarthy ousted for, allegedly. That is, he went for a continuing resolution. As we get into the new year, of course, we have a tight deadline coming up early in 2024 here to get the budget passed. Or are we going to just end up with a big omnibus bill again that will totally tick off every conservative in the country? I mean, it doesn't look like ousting McCarthy did anything to really advance the conservative cause any, unlike what some people seem to be claiming on what was formerly known as Twitter all the time, but it don't seem like it worked out that way. And so that's another little development we'll have to see, and how that plays out, because the time is running out. And of course, the big thing I think is that as of we're speaking now, the Senate has really took my advice. I don't know if they ever heard it, but if they had have heard it, they're doing what I recommended, and that is holding the Ukrainian aid package hostage for serious border security reforms, actual changes of the law that would have to actually get by the Democrat filibuster in the Senate in order to actually become law. And if that were to happen, that would be a major step ahead, a big success. But or will Biden just decide to sacrifice Ukraine and continue to bring in all the illegals for another couple of million in the coming year? That's still in play. And there is a lawsuit. I checked into it and couldn't find the status. There's 20 attorney generals that filed a lawsuit, but as far as I can tell, I can't find any progress, outcome, or anything about it, what its status is. So that could pop up as well. So that's kind of about it. I hope everybody has a happy new year, and hopefully things will go better, and hopefully we'll win the election that coming fall. I think I face this whole situation with trepidation, with the possibility of running a candidate who will granted be unfairly convicted of felonies, in my opinion, but very well may be because of our two-tier justice system. I mean, it's a very, crazy system. Things that you let Hillary Clinton and Biden off for, you must totally prosecute Trump for. That's crazy, but that's the way the system is at the moment. And so that's about that. What else? I don't know. We just hope that things go better. Inflation is the rate is actually coming down, but people aren't feeling it yet. I hope they don't feel it too much before the election, because I'd still like to hope to hold that little that against the administration for the massive spending that causes inflation. So anyhow, that's about what we have, and so wishing everybody a happy new year. And of course, as always, I'll be posting this in addition to on YouTube. I'll be posting on Rumble, and the addresses of my social media accounts are in the description below. You can check on X particularly from time to time for updates that I do, and sometimes I'll post them also on other things such as Gab. So until next time.